Hey yo, welcome to the BBW show, you feel me? We talk bad rap, basketball, and wrestling. And today, we about to talk about the career of Scott Hall, you feel me? If you don't know, Scott Hall passed away earlier this week due to a heart attack while he had a kidney surgery, you feel me? We not gonna talk about none of the drug stuff that he went through or none of that. We just gonna talk about the positives of Scott Hall. For one, Razor Ramon, you feel me? Razor Ramon, you feel me? 1992, he came around WWE. Easily perfect for that era. That new generation era where it's like, it wasn't about the big, strong guys, you feel me? It's about the work rate, damn near, you feel me? Like, you had to be realistic. Like, you had the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash, Diesel, Psycho Sid, you feel me? Like that era, and then they all changed it to different characters in the late 90s and became more realistic. That was dope. I'm not gonna lie. Scott Hall is probably gonna be in WWE. He's gonna be remembered for the great Intercontinental match with Shawn Michaels, Gangsta, the first ever ladder match in WWE history. Even to this day, that match still holds up as one of the best ever, Gangsta. Easily a great match, Gangsta. He never was a WWE champion in WWE. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like if he didn't leave when he left, it was a possibility he could have been. I'm not gonna lie, cause he was definitely up there before Triple H. Like, he was way more ready before Triple H, and he was better than Kevin Nash. You feel me? And then, honestly, like, the Click leaving WWE changed wrestling. Like, nobody says that, because if they didn't leave, Stone Cold doesn't become who he is. Bret Hart doesn't become who he is. He was already a big star, but Bret Hart probably leaves way earlier than that. The Rock definitely doesn't become who he is if the Click stays around. If Hall and Nash stay in WWE, like, wrestling would be totally different. Totally different. Totally different. If they don't leave, that wrestling would be totally different, because they ran off a bunch of people. They ran off Shane Douglas to ECW, you feel me? Chris Candido. They was already burying people. So for like Hall and Nash to go to WCW and Triple H and Shawn Michaels to stay, now it felt like 50-50, you feel me? But what else? What else? Some cool stuff about the Scott Hall WWE run. Him putting over the 1-2-3 Kid, Gangsta. That's one of the best surprises in wrestling history, Gangsta. Every company's tried to do that where the jobber gets a fluke roll up over the big star, but none of them have the great reactions like that one did. That made the 1-2-3 Kid at that time, Gangsta. And then him going to WCW, again, changes wrestling. If they don't show up then, at one point in time, WCW was the number one wrestling company in the United States. The number one. People like to talk about people was talking about the Wednesday Night Wars when it was WWE's third show going up against AEW's flagship show. The Monday Night Wars was WWE's number one show and WCW number one show, head to head, Monday night, same time. Same amount of, nobody had they had overruns and all of that. But nobody had an extra hour or nothing. It was literally 8 to 10, 8 to 10. You feel me? Every single week. Not counter programming once or twice. That's a real war. You feel me? Now AEW and WWE is not a real war because WWE is so much above them. Like, there's so much here. And they have so much more content. And they're not even on the same days. You feel me? And one is sports entertainment. One is like, I'm not going to say old professional wrestling, but they're two different things. You feel me? But Scott Hall in WCW, that's what really made him a star. Like, that's what made him like a household name, Gangsta. Like, the NWO shirts is one of the most famous wrestling shirts of all time. Easily, top 3, Gangsta. Him and Kevin Nash, they wasn't a great tag team as far as in-ring work, but they was like superstars. Like, superstars. Gangsta. Him and Kevin Nash, like, they just came off as superstars. And then he had the survey, like, if you came for WCW, like, he was just so cool, Gangsta. Scott Hall, this is another thing about his legacy. Like, the NWO was the first ever heels that got cheered like bad guys, you feel me? They was the first ever cool heels. Now you see the Adam Coles and the Young Bucks and Jay White's, like every heel that's supposed to be a heel but gets cheered, Kevin Owens, all of them guys, they get it from Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and them. They was the first original heels that first bad people that people love to cheer, gangster. So that's definitely a part of his legacy. Two, again, changing wrestling just with the NWO. Like that changed the wrestling. Like changed wrestling completely. There's still people to this day copying the NWO. Bullet Club, you feel me? The Elite. You feel me? They're still trying to copy semblance of the NWO that they had. Like, it's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he definitely, and he's a two-time Hall of Famer. He just was on the cover of WWE 2K22 that just came out this year. That's another thing that's crazy about it. That's another wild thing to think about. But yeah, Scott Hall he was it. You can't talk about the 90s and not mention Scott Hall. For him to be a top guy in WWE in the early 90s, then to be a top guy in WCW in the late 90s. Like, that says enough about him, you feel me? And that was the era where everybody didn't have to be world champion. You feel me? Nobody ever said Scott Hall was buried because he wasn't world champion. But today, wrestling fans would say if you're not world champion, that means you're buried. Scott Hall was never world champion, and he was still a big star. Still made mad money, all of that. You feel me? Like, he's up there. I'm not gonna lie. He's up there. Especially for, like, the 90s when you had the Goldbergs and Lex Lugers. Like, you had guys. The 90s wasn't about the 90s wasn't about work rate. It was about superstar and, like, promo ability and bigger than life characters. But at that time, Scott Hall was definitely one of the best wrestlers of 1997 against the 1998. He got the Dave Meltzer Most Improved in 1992. You feel me? So he's definitely been, at that time, he was one of the best wrestlers. You feel me? If he ain't have his issues, we really had way more great Scott Hall matches. But at a certain point, it just became like Scott Hall the character, and nobody cared about the matches. It was just the promos and like, what is he gonna do next? But all in all, rest in peace, Scott Hall. Gone but never forgotten. Bad times last. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll be back with more.